Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host today, guys, Garrison McDaniel, and we'll be talking about a bunch of great things tonight. We'll start off the night by talking about the game that is currently ongoing between the Rangers and the Panthers. Actually, as I say that, I should probably take a look, put it on this screen over here so I could keep you guys up to date with that game. It was 1-0 last time I checked, and it is still 1-0 with a Matthew Tkachuk goal about halfway through that game. We're 8 minutes left in the second period. The Panthers up 1-0 in New York for Game 1. So that will be our first topic of the day. I'll give you guys my keys to that game and to the series. Our second segment of the night will be the top storylines for the conference final, what we should be looking out for in the East and in the West. Our third segment is going to be a report that came out from the NHL PR today that I found really interesting and would love to share with you guys. Make sure you stick around later in the show where I'll be talking about the IIHF tournament that's going on right now, the international tournament in hockey. And then we will end our show by previewing the Western Conference Final. Before we start, guys, I would love to ask that you like and follow the show if you're enjoying it. We also get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your questions get read live on air, use the tips and donations link at GSMCpodcast.net with any questions or comments. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I'm able to see it, and it also really helps the show. Again, the link is, as you see on the screen, GSMCpodcast.net. Alright, guys, we're going to get right into our first segment of the night where we're talking about the Rangers-Panthers Game 1. And as I've already said, it is 1-0 here. I'm going to have it up on this screen throughout the show. If I see any changes in that, I will give you guys the update the second I see it. But the keys to this series that I listed out on the Monday show that I think I would love to reiterate for this one. The first one was the forward groups. Which of the star-studded forward groups is going to prevail here? We went through and listed all the forwards on Monday's podcast. If you want to listen to that a little bit more in depth, you can go ahead and listen to that one on the Monday show. But really, I think that is the biggest key to this series and to especially this Game 1. Which forward group is going to be able to beat the goaltender the best? Because these are two of the greatest forward groups, but it's also Sergei Bobrovsky versus Igor Shesterkin, two of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. Both of them are Vezina finalists this year, so that's going to be a huge matchup looking at that. I'm looking at the forward groups to see who does best in this game, but that also means I'm looking at the defensive production. Offensively, getting production from your defense means that you're not relying so much on your forward group, and it's going to be that makes up, you have the two star-studded defensemen in this series. One side, Adam Fox for the New York Ranger, former Norris Trophy candidate, and on the other side, it's Aaron Ekblad, who is a perennial Norris Trophy candidate. He was the number 1 overall pick for the Florida Panthers in 2014. So, looking at the defensive production, that is going to be a huge indicator for who's going to come out on top of this series. Another big thing for this series is 5-on-5 play. We talk about it more notably with all of the Oilers series, and since their power play is so productive, you're looking at you're looking at the other team to win 5-on-5, right? We're going to be talking about that in our fifth segment, but when it comes to this Rangers-Panthers one, I think it's also worth talking about this because the Rangers and the Florida Panthers have the second and third respective penalty killing units in the National Hockey League from the regular season. Both of them have been very good in the playoffs as well. The Rangers are the better power play unit. They are the third best power play unit in these playoffs behind the Colorado Avalanche and the Edmonton Oilers. So that might be an area that they can separate themselves. However, you never know if they're going to actually be able to do so. I talked about the goaltending matchup. I would love to talk about this more. Igor Shesterkin is the best goaltender in the NHL, and we see it game in and game out. But Sergei Bobrovsky has been amazing this season. Just over 2 goals against average for Sergei Bobrovsky for the season. I believe he was at a 2.27. He was around a 920 save percentage as well. And he won some of the most games in the NHL. Sergei Bobrovsky was an amazing goaltender, and in a year that they were really looking at him to step up, because they have his replacement kind of waiting in the wings in Spencer Knight on the Florida Panthers. So Sergei Bobrovsky gained the production that he did is very, very exciting for the Florida Panthers. They have 2 amazing goaltenders over there in Florida. And then in New York, of course, Igor Shesterkin is the only goaltender really there. But he's the only goaltender they really need. Jonathan Quick, of course, is his backup. But that is a one-man show in the New York Rangers goal, and he's really showed that it only needs to be a one-man show. He showed that he is the best goaltender in the NHL. Still 1-0 in this game. This game, what I was seeing as Matthew Tkachuk was the one that scored the first goal. Very, very defensive-minded game. Hard hitting. Man, Matthew Tkachuk was laying his body. It was funny. In the first period, there was a moment that the announcer, I think it was Ray Ferrara, he said he was talking about Matthew Tkachuk and how he made a hit, and he called him Keith Tkachuk, legitimately on accident. Like, you could tell that was a mistake. Of course, for those of you that don't know, Matthew Tkachuk's dad, Keith Tkachuk, is a Hall of Famer. He played for the Blues. He played for a couple of teams throughout his career, but he is, of course, most notably played for the St. Louis Blues. I believe he is retired by the Blues, or his jersey is retired by the Blues. A legend of the sport, Keith Tkachuk. So it was funny to see Ray Ferrara get a little bit tongue-tied when Matthew Tkachuk, of course, scored. Or not scored, but when Matthew Tkachuk was laying the body, because of course that's what Keith Tkachuk was known for, was being that physical forward. So that was funny to see. But yeah, it was the Florida Panthers kind of imposing their will physically, as they're used to doing. This is kind of how they swept the Carolina Hurricanes last year. Was they were the bigger and stronger team, and they showed that. The New York Rangers now are no pushover, but they're gonna want to start producing. 9 shots on goal through 2 periods. 9 shots on goal through 2 periods is not what you want to see if you are the New York Rangers. You're hoping that offensive production can turn around for them. However, the Florida Panthers, they're playing a fantastic defensive-minded game. Dmitry Kulikov, Aaron Ekblad, even their forwards, Anton Lundell, Gustav Forsling, Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Tkachuk, all these guys are playing such a great two-way game. I didn't even mention Alexander Barkov, the Frank J. Selke winner for best defensive forward in the NHL. So this Florida Panthers team is doing exactly what they want to do. So the New York Rangers need to find a way to make them uncomfortable, like the Florida Panthers are making the New York Rangers. I think if the New York Rangers can find their footing, probably it's going to take a power play goal or something to kind of find their footing in this series. You see it a lot of times with great forwards. All it takes is seeing one go through. This is kind of what happened during their comeback against the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 6 as they knocked off them by a Chris Kreider hat trick. That's a goal scorer. Seeing him kind of turn around and get that production really helps them out, of course. Really puts them over the edge. This New York Rangers team, of course, is the team that I have winning the Stanley Cup. Is the team that I have winning this series. Just talking about this one, I had them winning in 6. So I do believe that they're going to win this game, and I think that they're going to kind of have to if they do want a chance in this series. Of course, it's the old it's the old saying of a series doesn't start until a road team wins. Florida could take Game 1 on the road, and that gets very scary for the New York Rangers. We talk about how important home ice advantage is. And giving up home ice advantage in game one will be so unfortunate, especially a home ice advantage that is Madison Square Garden, the greatest, not the greatest, but one of the greatest home ice advantages in the NHL is Madison Square Garden. Of course, you have PNC Arena up there. Of course, you have Scotiabank Center up there. Of course, you have even the Vegas Golden Knights T-Mobile Arena is up there as well for best home ice advantage. So Madison Square Garden, you're wanting to take game one if you're the New York Rangers. You're probably going to have to take game one if you're the New York Rangers. So 3 minutes left in the second period. The Florida Panthers are still up 1-0. The Rangers are going to need to find a way to get on the board here, and probably going to need to find a way to get on the board here soon. They did play very well in the third period against the Carolina Hurricanes. But the Florida Panthers aren't the Carolina Hurricanes. The Florida Panthers have something the Carolina Hurricanes don't have, and that is a number one goaltender. Sergei Bobrovsky can definitely be the difference in this series compared to the Carolina Hurricane series. Sergei Bobrovsky is going to need to be that difference for the Florida Panthers. So they're going to find a way to figure him out. Of course, you have. And we'll talk about this during the storylines, but on the New York Rangers, they have a lot of Sergei Bobrovsky's former teammates when they were all at the Columbus Blue Jackets together. That's going to be one of the headlines I talk about in the next segment. So we're going to take our short break on the backs of that. Of course, Florida Panthers, to reiterate, up 1-0 to the New York Rangers in Game 1 with the second period winding down, 2.5 minutes left in that one. Of course, throughout the hour, I'm going to be giving you guys updates on that series, on that game. But with that being said, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the top storylines for the conference finals.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign. A sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign. A sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign. A sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Alright guys, we are back and we're getting right into this next segment where we're talking about the top storylines for the conference finals. We're going to get right into this, but before we talk about that, I would love to remind you guys that if you have any questions or comments for me to read out loud live on air, use the GSMC Podcast.net tips and donations link with any of that. It helps out a lot for everybody here. Everybody here really deserves it. So, tips and donations link at the GSMC Podcast.net. But without further ado, we're going to get right into this as my screen crashed. So let me pull that back up so I can keep you guys up to date with the Panthers-Rangers game since we're doing this real time while the Panthers-Rangers game is going while it is going on. I would love to keep an eye on that one as we're going through these segments here. Segment 2 right here, talking about the top storylines for the conference finals. All right, my number one storyline is a lot of these players on the teams share a former home, and that former home resided in Columbus, Ohio, as you have 7 individuals that are a part of this series have played or was a part of the Columbus Blue Jackets organization at one time of their career. For the New York Rangers, you have, and we're going to start off with Jonathan Quick, who was there for 1 day, so he doesn't really count. But Jonathan Quick, former Blue Jacket. Artemi Panarin was a former Blue Jacket. Alexander Wenberg was drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Jack Roslovic, former Columbus Blue Jacket from Dublin, Ohio. Of course, that got talked about for the Columbus Blue Jackets a lot. They had a lot of former Columbus kids, and Jack Roslovic was one of them. So that's the former Blue Jackets on the New York Rangers side of things. On the Florida Panthers side of things, you have the current GM, Bill Zito. He was the assistant GM under Jarmo Kekalainen in Columbus. Sergei Bobrovsky absolutely was a Blue Jacket, won the Vezina twice in Columbus in 2013 and 2017. And then you have Kevin Stenlund, a Blue Jackets draft pick, who was a part of... He went to Winnipeg, but I don't know if he was a part of the Patrick Laine and Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. I'm not certain about that. So... a lot of former Blue Jackets a part of this series. Of course, I am a little bit more familiar than most with that team. I am from Columbus, Ohio, I must say that. So that is why I know all of this off the top of my head, really. I think it is interesting to see because, it shows how much talent that 2019 team had in Columbus that was unable to get past the second round, past the Boston Bruins. But it shows you how they were able to sweep the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, the best regular season team of all time at that time. The biggest storyline here is Bobrovsky versus Panarin, the two Russians who had the falling out with John Tortorella in Columbus at the same time. Both of them kind of, were destined for free agency at the end of that season. And while they were both free agents, Florida Panthers tried to sign both of them, wanted to team them back up on the same team, but they only were able to sign Sergei Bobrovsky for 7 years. Artemi Panarin did sign with the New York Rangers a couple days after Bobrovsky signed with the Florida Panthers, or they might have signed on the same day, actually, now that I think about it. But he, of course, signed a 7-year deal with the New York Rangers in that free agency. So, two former Blue Jackets who were big friends or great friends. There are pictures of them. There's this picture that's in my brain of them standing in Sergei Bobrovsky's flat with both their shirts off. It's a funny one. If you want to look up just Sergei Bobrovsky and Artemi Panarin pictures, I bet it will come up just with a quick Google search. But that is the top storyline in this Eastern Conference Final, I think, is Panarin versus Bob. And then on the other side, I think the biggest storyline in the Western Conference Final is McDavid and Draisaitl. Are they able to have this kind of legacy playoffs that we all expect them to have? McDavid and Draisaitl, of course, Edmonton Oilers' finest, two absolute superstars. McDavid might be the greatest hockey player we have ever seen since Mario Lemieux debuted in the 80s or Wayne Gretzky debuted in the 80s. So Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, neither of them have even gone to the Stanley Cup Finals yet. You think it's going to happen soon. This team it's way too talented, the forward group, and they have Evan Bouchard who's performing. So you think that it's going to have to happen, but you're now going up against the very talented and younger Dallas Stars with Wyatt Johnston, with Rupint, with I forget, Logan Stankoven. That's the other. I knew there was 3 young guys on that team. Logan Stankoven, of course, being the rookie of the 3 there. So it's a very young team in Dallas. But then you also have Joe Pavelski. You also have Jamie Benn. Of course, you have Ryan Sutter. All these veterans on the Dallas Stars looking to get their first cups together. So it is the old mix with the new in Dallas, and then the superstars of Edmonton. We kind of talked about that a little bit when it came to the Edmonton Oilers versus the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, the Vancouver Canucks had a lot of forward depth. Elias Lindholm is the one that comes to mind. Brock Besser, not too old, but of course being a kind of veteran of the NHL now. So very comparable to last series that they had, but I think it's just a little bit better. And the young pieces for the Dallas Stars look a little bit better than the young pieces for the Vancouver Canucks, especially with Elias Pettersson not performing and Quinn Hughes not performing. Another big storyline in the Western Conference Final, I think you have to talk about Evan Bouchard, of course, Edmonton Oilers number one defenseman versus Miro Heiskanen, the Dallas Stars number one defenseman. Both of those guys have proven throughout this playoffs that they are bona fide, number one defensemen that are having just amazing seasons, and even better postseasons is what I was trying to say. Especially with Evan Bouchard, who really has broken out in this postseason. The 24-year-old defenseman, still very young. Miro Heiskanen is still very young too. I believe he's 23 or 24, if I'm not mistaken. So both of them having really great breakout playoffs, and we're seeing improvement from them every single game that they play too. So McDavid and Draisaitl having a legacy playoffs is my second biggest storyline for the conference final. Number 3 is Vincent Trocheck returns to Florida. Vincent Trocheck is on his kind of revenge tour this postseason. He of course was drafted by the Florida Panthers back in 2013, a former third-round pick. He was traded then to the Carolina Hurricanes in 2021, played 2 seasons in Carolina, and signed with the New York Rangers in this past offseason. So Vincent Trocheck, already being one former team in the Carolina Hurricanes, now playing against his second former team in a row in the Florida Panthers. This one might hit a little bit closer to home for him. Of course, playing in Florida for, I believe it was 8 years. You're going to have a lot more ties to that team than you have ties to the Carolina Hurricanes. So, Vincent Trocheck going back to Florida is my second biggest topic, third biggest topic in the conference finals. We'll see if he can get on the board for the New York Rangers, as that game has gone into intermission. 1-0 Florida Panthers still on top of the New York Rangers in this game 1 in New York. Barkov and Ekblad is my number 4 topic for the conference finals. Alexander Barkov and Aaron Ekblad are hometown kids in Florida, not like grown up in Florida, but they were their draft picks during very hard times. In 2012, they draft Jonathan Huberdeau. In 2013, they draft Alexander Barkov. In 2014, they draft Aaron Ekblad. It's unfortunate that we're seeing the Florida Panthers win without Jonathan Huberdeau, because he was really the catalyst for all of this. However, they do get Matthew Tkachuk from him. A little bit change of scenery for both of those guys have led to kind of both of them having great careers so far. But yeah, Alexander Barkov and Aaron Ekblad winning in Florida is something that I love to see. Of course, we talked about 2013 second overall draft pick, 2014 number 1 overall draft pick in Aaron Ekblad. So the Florida Panthers really raised these guys from 18 years old to be who they are, the people that they are, the men that they are today, and being the hockey players that they are, more importantly, for the Florida Panthers. Seeing wins, Barkov winning his second Selke of his career, Aaron Ekblad being an absolute fantastic defenseman in the NHL in his own right. You are very, very happy if you're Florida getting what you've gotten from the careers of Aaron Ekblad and Alexander Barkov. And then my last topic I'll talk about, the last little storyline here, is the Russian goalie matchup in the Eastern Conference Final, as my screen goes out. the Russian goalie matchup in the Eastern Conference Final is my next topic. We're talking about Igor Shesterkin versus Sergei Bobrovsky. We talked about it in the first segment, how important that matchup is for the series, but I think it also plays a big storyline because, both of them want to be the top Russian goaltender in a league that has amazing Russian goaltenders all around it. Of course, Alexander Georgiev, Ilya Sorokin. See if I can name any more off the top of my head as I'm just spewing these out here. But yeah, Daniil Tarasov, that Blue Jackets goalie, that's a Russian. But, a lot of great Russian goaltenders throughout the league, and these are the top two, undisputed. I guess Ilya Sorokin could be in the conversation, but I still think these two are the top two best Russian goaltenders in the NHL. Jeremy Swayman, Jake Onger both have a hat in the ring for best goaltender in the NHL, but when we're talking about just the Russians, it's really these two. And seeing that matchup in the Eastern Conference is going to be very exciting for this entire series. And with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for our second segment of the top storylines in the conference finals. When I come back, we're going to be talking about the NHL PR and how they announced today that this has been the most watched Stanley Cup playoffs through 2 rounds so far.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, guys, welcome back to our next segment where we're talking about the NHL PR and how they announced that this is the most watched playoffs so far. The 2024 NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, this is the tweet that they put out this morning. The ESPN total viewers announced 1.575 million over the first 2 rounds. This is a 15% increase from any other playoffs in history. Sorry, this is the second round alone. 1.57 million viewers through 2 rounds. The Stanley Cup playoffs on ESPN are averaging 1.23 million total viewers, up 15% and 9% versus the comparable point in 2023. So yeah, a lot of people are watching hockey and a lot of people are watching this Stanley Cup playoffs. I wanted to bring that up because I think it opens up an even bigger conversation on the state of hockey right now. And what kind of are the factors that goes into this, goes into having such a loyal group of watchers and followers of the NHL right now? I think it is amazing. I think hockey is in such a great spot, and this is why. First off, let's look at the teams that are currently in it, who we are watching, and why people are getting behind. I'm going to go through the entire 16-seed poll, and I can name you reasons on why you're watching every team. All right. First off, Dallas Stars. We're going to just go from Western Conference, Eastern Conference, each team here. Dallas Stars. Why do you watch this team? They have such fun young core. Rube Hintz, Logan Stankoven, Wyatt Johnson. These guys are 21 and younger, play amazing hockey. And then you have guys looking for their first cup in Joe Pavelski and Ryan Sutter, the names that we talked about earlier. these guys looking for their first cup. Matt Duchene, of course, in that ring too. And then on top of all of that, you have Mir Heiskanen, a very young defenseman who's amazing. On top of all of that, you have Jake Ottinger, who's an amazing goaltender, very fun to watch, very entertaining. That team is so entertaining. All right, who they play in the first round? They played the Vegas Golden Knights. Tell me that's not a fun team to watch. The defending Stanley Cup champion. They have a very talented forward group. Of course, they won the Stanley Cup last year. They add even more in the during the trade deadline. Add Noah Hannafin, and then you get Mark Stone back for the playoffs. If you're Vegas, they have fun young goaltenders in Adam Hill and Logan Thompson. You have Alexander Pietrangelo, very great defenseman. That team is a very fun team to watch. And why do you watch them? Because they're the defending Stanley Cup champion, and you're going to want to see. Also, Vegas has a very big market. T-Mobile Arena is always sold out whenever they're playing at home. It is a very, very fun team to watch. So that's why you're going to watch that team. All right, moving down. Then you have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Winnipeg Jets. Colorado Avalanche. Why do you watch that team? Nathan McKinnon. Why do you watch that team? Mikko Rantanen. Why do you watch that team? Cale Makar. These are three superstars of the NHL you're going to want to watch day in and day out. Those are all very fun names, especially Cale Makar. 23-year-old defenseman, can do it all, the best defenseman in the NHL right now, in my opinion. He is absolutely amazing, and he fills that team's needs perfectly, and he makes that team so much fun to watch. You also have Alexander Georgiev, who's a great goaltender, very, very fun to watch. So why do you watch that team? You want to see if that core can win another one. On top of all that, they have Artturi Lehkonen, who was very entertaining. Of course, Valery Nichushkin might be the reason they're not in the playoffs anymore because of his suspension. But that was still a fun team to watch when he was playing, especially on that power play. That team was amazing. Winnipeg Jets, why do you watch that team? Connor Hellebuck. He is a top 5 goaltender in the league, and he has not won a Stanley Cup. Why do you watch Winnipeg? Because they are this small market team who had their team torn away from them. And they are trying to revitalize that organization, the former Atlanta Thrashers. Their team was taken away from them, moved to Arizona of all places, and then they got a team back, and that's why you root for that, because they're a very underdog story. That is always a team that I love watching. And it's still a very fun team. You have, Cole Perfetti, who's a very fun player to watch. You have, I'm blanking on a lot of guys on the Winnipeg Jets, but they were a fantastic team in the regular season, one of the best in the regular season. So, of course, they got disposed of in the first round. That's why not a lot of names are coming to my mind right now, because they haven't played hockey in a little while. But that was still a very fun team to watch, and Connor Hellebuck is an amazing goaltender. So you want to watch them to see if he could get something. Moving down to the Pacific side of that Western Conference, the number 1 seed was the number 1 seed in the Pacific side. It wasn't the Oilers. Who did the Oilers just play? Why am I blanking? The Vancouver Canucks. I'm so completely blanked on the second round matchup there. But the Vancouver Canucks. Why is that team fun to watch? Well, tell me why that team isn't fun to watch. Quinn Hughes, young defenseman, who's extremely great. Brock Besser, JT Miller, Elias Lindholm, Elias Pettersson. Carson Soucy was great during that series. You had Thatcher Demko, and then when Thatcher Demko unfortunately went down with his injury, you have this rookie goaltender who hasn't played a lick of NHL hockey. Artur Shilov steps right in and plays amazing. That Vancouver Canucks team was so much fun to watch. It is unfortunate that they had to run into Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, and their run ended there, but that was such a fun team to watch. Moving on to who they played in the first round, they played the Nashville Predators in the first round. That team, Roman Josi, Nashville Predators. Need I say more? That guy has carried this team to the playoffs how many years in a row now? Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, UC Saros. That core has been the same for many years, and it's so much fun to watch them. They had Ryan McDonough this last year too. It was so much fun to watch them play hockey throughout the regular season. So that's another fun team, and they took the Vancouver Canucks to 6, and that was a close series in the first round. So on the other side, you have. Do I even need to talk about why the Edmonton Oilers are fun to watch? It's the Edmonton Oilers. It's Connor McDavid. It's Leon Draisaitl. The only 45% on the power play through the first 2 rounds, or through most of the first 2 rounds. They went 0 for 7 in the last 2 games to bring that stat. I believe it's now at 37%, but still, fantastic power play. That just speaks to their superstars: Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard. That's the power play one. And then you have Evander Kane. You have who's on the other side of Leon Draisaitl? I'm blanking right now. Who's on that other side? You also have Darnell Nurse. And then you're watching these high scoring games with the Edmonton Oilers, and that's why that team is so much fun to watch. I can't wait to watch the Western Conference Finals, see how the Dallas Stars mitigate those 2 superstars, because nobody is able to. And then on the other side of that series, it was the LA Kings. The LA Kings, Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, and then you have young names like Quentin Byfield. You have young names like they had Pierre-Luc Dubois on that team. That team is really good. They just ran into the Edmonton Oilers. It was unfortunate for them. But that team was still very young and very fun to watch while they were playing in the playoffs. This is their 3rd year in a row losing out to the Edmonton Oilers. So it's unfortunate for them. And then on the Eastern Conference side of things, you have, going down the list, number 1 overall seed was the New York Rangers. How is that team not fun to watch? Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Igor Shesterkin, Adam Fox, Vincent Trocheck. What else with that team? As that does remind me, it's still 1-0 in the game between the Panthers and the Rangers. Here, the third period still has not gone underway in that one. But anyways, who they matched up with in the first round, it was the Washington Capitals, Ovi's last cup. Need I say more? I definitely don't. And then you have the Rangers. You have the Hurricanes versus the Islanders. The Hurricanes, what a fun team that is. Sebastian Aho, Jake Gensel, Teuvo Teravainen, Seth Jarvis, very young player, Frederick Anderson, seeing if he can get his first cup. This entire Hurricanes core is so much fun to watch. And then you have the New York Islanders, Ilya Sorokin, Matthew Barzal. These guys are stars that are so fun to watch. And then on the other side of the Eastern Conference, the number 1 overall seed there, the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Just that series matchup, the Battle of Florida, Panthers versus Lightning, is such a fun matchup. The former Eastern Conference Finals winner versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, who won it so many years in a row, who was the best team of all time for like 3 years. That's such a fun matchup, not even getting into the players of that one. And then in that series, you even had Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov. You had Victor Hedman. I'm blanking on the goaltender's name. That's the one that's eluding me right now. But Andrei Vasilevsky, got it. And then when it comes to the Florida Panthers, they're still rolling in the Eastern Conference. Such a fun team to watch. Sergei Bobrovsky, Matthew Tkachuk, Anton Lundell, just a fantastic team. Carter Verhaeghe, one that's really fun to watch and that's going very far in these playoffs. And then on the other side of in the final series of the Eastern Conference, you have the Boston Bruins versus, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs, who is the biggest market in hockey. The Boston Bruins, such a fun team to watch as well. Jeremy Swayman, Linus Ullmark, what a fun goalie tandem to root for. And then you have Brad Marchand, seeing if he could finally win a cup in his career. This is this is my point here. The depth of talent in the NHL is at an all-time high. At any moment, any two teams going out on the ice, you're going to see a superstar somewhere on that ice, and it's so much fun to watch. That is why we're seeing these viewership numbers. This is why this is the most watched NHL playoffs in recent memory. I am so lucky to be able to cover it. I'm not shocked by this statistic at all. The first two rounds of the playoffs were the most watched ever, and I expect that to continue through the third round, through the Stanley Cup final. If you aren't tuning into this playoffs, you need to. It's so much fun to watch. But that'll wrap it up for my third segment. When I come back with my fourth segment, we'll be talking about the IIHF, the international tournament going on right now, and taking a look at who is doing well there.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Alright guys, welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We are taking a look into the IIHF tournament. I did this with this Wednesday podcast because I wanted to talk about the pool play and the preliminary games before bracket play starts, as we have wrapped up the preliminary games and now we have our bracket. So, two groups in the IIHF tournament, of course. IHF stands for International Ice Hockey Federation. This is the tournament that hosts all of the top teams. This is the biggest international tournament in hockey, excluding the Olympics. So, who did very well? Well, in Group A, you have, of course, Canada finishing first. They only lost... they did not lose a game. They won 5 games in regulation and only 2 were in overtime. They did not lose a single game, beating everybody else in their pool. Switzerland was the second team in Group A. They lost only 1 game in regulation. That was to Canada. And then the Czech Republic was the third team here. They lost 2 games in overtime, not 1 in regulation. They were one of the overtime losses, or they were one of the teams that pushed Canada to overtime. Then Finland is the final team to qualify out of Group A, meaning Canada, Switzerland, Czech Republic, and Finland are the 4 teams to advance out of Group A. And the 4 teams to have been eliminated were Austria, Norway, Denmark, and of course Great Britain, who is historically the worst team in international hockey. Over on Group B, the second group, of course this is a 16-team tournament. We whittle it down to 8 teams for the bracket play, so that's why the top 4 move on. The bottom 4 are eliminated. Number 1 in Group B. It was not USA, it was Sweden who got the top seed in Group B. They played very well against USA. They won every single game in regulation, not even something Canada did. They went 7 for 7 in regulation games in this tournament. USA finished second, 5-0-1-1 was their record, losing 1 game in overtime and losing 1 to Sweden in regulation. Germany was the other team, Germany and Slovakia were the 2 other teams to qualify. Germany having 15 points, Slovakia having 12. That means Latvia, Kazakhstan, France, and Poland have been eliminated. Latvia, unfortunate, one of the home countries being eliminated. But Czechia, the other home country, did get to move on in this one. So this means Canada plays Slovakia, Switzerland plays Germany, United States play Czechia, Sweden plays Finland, and that is a absolutely exciting one. Sweden versus Finland. Whenever those guys play each other in hockey, it is always extremely entertaining. Historically, it has always been extremely entertaining. Of course, none of these teams played in pool play because you play from the other bracket, but on the top side, you have Canada and Switzerland, and Slovakia and Germany. Canada, Switzerland from A, Slovakia, Germany from B. Canada and Switzerland are definitely the favorites, but Germany can definitely come out of this 4-team kind of playoff in the top here, as Germany has Tim Stützle, who is a fantastic NHL player on that team, but Switzerland having Roman Josi, I believe, is playing for Switzerland, and a bunch of other guys that are NHL players. Of course, also Canada has an entire NHL roster, so they can definitely move on. They are definitely the favorites. That's why I'm joking. United States, Czechia. America is, of course, the favorite in that one. And then Sweden, Finland. Sweden, of course, is the favorite in that one. As the tournament has progressed, the players that hold the top 3 spots in the points category are all from the top line of America. It's Matt Boldy, the Minnesota Wild winger, Brady Tkachuk, the Ottawa Senators center, and Johnny Gaudreau, the Columbus Blue Jackets winger, is the top 3. 14, 13, and 11, respectively, are their points total. Coming in at 4th is Roman Josi, the defenseman from the Nashville Predators. Dylan Cousins is 5th from Canada. Kevin Fiala and Nico Hischier, also representing Switzerland, are 6th and 7th. You can kind of see why this team did so well in pool play. But Erik Karlsson, Andrei Burakovsky, and Roman Cervenka finish out the top 10 of points totals. Some notable names that are a little bit more that show up a little bit more down is JJ Peterka for Germany. Marcus Johansson for Sweden has had a pretty good tournament. Cole Caulfield and Shane Pinto for America has been playing very well. John Tavares on Canada is playing very well. He joined when, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs went out of the playoffs. Zach Werenski is in the top 30. Juraj Slavkovsky is proving that he can be a professional player for Slovakia, as he's kind of him and Martin Pospisil are kind of carrying that Slovakia team. Them and Libor Hudacek. So that is who are the scoring leaders, the players with the most goals. Dylan Cousins with 8 in 7 games played. Brady Tkachuk 7 in 7 games played. Kevin Fiala 6 in only 5 games played, as he joined late because of the NHL playoffs. Oliver Kapanen has been Finland's top goal scorer. Sweden's top goal scorer has been Joel Eriksson Ek, the Minnesota Wild, former first round pick. Slovakia, it's Libor Hudacek. Germany, it's JJ Peterka. Latvia was Kaspars Dogovins. I believe I pronounced that right. And Austria's was Peter Schneider. So those were kind of the most notable names when it came to the skaters. And the best goaltenders throughout the tournament has been Slovakia's Samuel... I'm not even going to try at this name. It's spelled Hlavaj. I don't even know how to even start. Samuel Hlavaj, I believe, is how you pronounce that. It's not an NHLer, so I haven't had any pronunciation guide for that guy at all. Some other notable goaltenders that are playing this. It's Philip Gustafsson for Sweden has been pretty good throughout this tournament. He has a 1.50 goals against average. Him and Samuel Ersson, who is at a 1.00, is Sweden's goaltender tandem. So them both are playing very well. Lucas Dostal is the Anaheim Ducks backup goaltender, if I'm not mistaken. He plays for Czechia at a 1.92 goals against average. Jordan Binnington is the Canadian goaltender. He is at a 2.97 goals against average. Philip Grubauer, the German goaltender, at a 3.21. I'm not seeing the American goaltender, who that's weird. Now I'm wondering why I did not see him on the list. Now I'll do a little bit of research on the fly here for you guys. Charlie Lindgren, the Washington Capitals goaltender, is the one that is playing for Team USA. I wonder why he didn't show up. Maybe it was because he hasn't played in enough ones. So the goaltending has been very good. This is why Sweden has been so good, is their goaltending has been amazing. They've had the tandem of Samuel Ersson and Philip Gustafsson for them that have played very well, and Czechia, how they have, I was made sure that was correct. Lucas Dostal does play for Anaheim. That's why Czechia really has been doing as well as they have, is his 1.92 goals against average is spectacular for them. So that'll wrap it up for our IIHF talk. I, of course, have Canada winning it, but Sweden does look very scary with their 7-0-0 record in the preliminary play. So I will give you guys another update when we get to the when we get through the bracket, when we see the gold medal and bronze medal games start to be played. And with that, we're going to take our fourth break. When I come back, we'll talk about previewing the Oilers and the Stars matchup. Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We're here with our fifth and final segment, previewing the Oilers Stars Round 2 matchup as the first games of the third round are starting to go underway. But as I was doing that little break there, the Florida Panthers extend their lead, double it with a goal by Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He had assists from Kevin Stenlund and Nick Cousins, and now it is 2-0 in New York for that game against the New York Rangers. But that's on that side, on the Eastern Conference side. Going to the Western Conference side, you have the Dallas Stars versus the Edmonton Oilers. This is a very exciting matchup here. The Dallas Stars, of course, having their veteran and young presence. Looking at this team is absolutely made to win in the playoffs. And what makes that true? Their I've said it a few times throughout this podcast alone. Their veteran stars their veteran leadership mixed with their very young stars really is the catalyst for this team, is what puts them in the position to win in the playoffs. This roster is, of course, consisting of Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, the captain, and the assistant captain. Those two have been really what drives this team. The only two players with letters on this team are those two. So Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, the 34 and 32-year-old, and then you have Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnson, and Logan Stankoven are the young guys that surround them. You also have Sam Steele in that young guy mix if you want to add him. So this core of forwards is really set for April and May. Matt Duchene, Joe Pavelski are also in this forward group. Evgeny Dadonov, Mason Marchment are all in this group. All of them are very skilled, very great NHL forwards. And really, their window to win is this year, absolutely. On the back end, this is where they lack a little bit. We talk about Ryan Sutter on this team. We talk about Miro Heiskanen on this team. We talk about Esa Lindell on this team. Niels Lundqvist is on this team. Yanni Hakanpää. All of these names are so hard to pronounce. So sorry, bear with me here. But for the Stars, this team has fantastic forward group. You have Miro Heiskanen, who is an absolute stud on the blue line. Ryan Sutter, who is the veteran on the blue line. And then you have Jake Ottinger as well. This team is very much made for April, made for May. This is why we see them in the Western Conference Final. On the other side, you have the Edmonton Oilers, who consist of the big bad Connor McDavid, of course. You have Leon Draisaitl, of course. Those two are the two highest scoring players in these playoffs. Both of them are nearing 2 points per game in these playoffs. It's very, very impressive what they've been able to do. Then you also have Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Dylan Holloway, Connor Brown, Sam Carrick, Warren Fogle, Adam Henrique, Corey Perry, all these guys surrounding them. This forward group is just like the Dallas Stars, made to win in the playoffs. And then on the back end, you have Matthias Ekholm, you have Darnell Nurse, you have Evan Bouchard, you have Cody Ceci, you have Brett Kulak, you have Philip Broberg, you have Vincent Desharnais. You have a fantastic defensive group along with that amazing forward group. You're not getting the production you want from Darnell Nurse in these playoffs, but Evan Bouchard is more than making up for his share. And then you have Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. This is your weakness. You don't have that Jake Ottinger level of goaltender that we're seeing on the other side. This is kind of what we saw in the Hurricanes-Rangers series a little bit, what made me worried about the Hurricanes. This is why I'm a little bit worried about the Oilers in this one. We talked about the Oilers, I believe it was last week, kind of needing to win in this playoffs. This is their window. This is their time. Unfortunately, they're going up against the Dallas Stars, who I believe is also in the heart of their time, their window to win. So this series is amazing. It's one that I'm very excited to see how it plays out. In my opinion, this series absolutely goes the distance. I have my prediction written down is Stars in 7. I think the Dallas Stars just edge them out with the veteran leadership, and I think that we're going to see an absolute masterclass from Miro Heiskanen. The only player that I've ever seen be able to compete with McDavid or Draisaitl in the playoffs has been Cale Makar. And I think Miro Heiskanen has that ability. You kind of saw what he was able to do against Nathan McKinnon on the back end, what he was able to do against Mikko Rantanen, who was very quiet throughout that series. So Miro Heiskanen is one of the premier defensemen in the league, and I believe that this is kind of his time to shine, his series to shine as well. Both of these rosters match up very well against each other. We see it in the Rangers-Panthers series, and we're seeing it again in this Stars-Oilers series. The Dallas Stars are barely favorited in this series. I believe the DraftKings Sportsbook had this series at -115 for the Stars, -105 for the Edmonton Oilers. So that is something to look out for. The Dallas Stars, of course, winning the Western Conference final, or winning the Western Conference in the regular season, earning the 1 seed. They will have home ice advantage in this series, and I believe that kind of what does Edmonton in. This series will be very difficult for the traveling team, this series will kind of be difficult for both teams, since you're going from Dallas to Edmonton at least 2 times. So that's going to be a very difficult flight, trying to work that out. So I do believe the Dallas Stars just barely have the edge in this one, but I would not be shocked, of course, if the Oilers win. That's why I have the Dallas Stars winning in 7. I think these two teams stack up very well against each other, but the Dallas Stars are just that little bit better. So that'll wrap it up for this edition of the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I was your host, Garrison McDaniel, and thank you all for tuning in. Your support means a lot to us, guys. So if you would like to remember to like or subscribe to the show, that would mean a lot to me, mean a lot to everybody at the GSMC Sports Network. But on that note, thank you all for tuning in, and have a lovely rest of your night.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of